This is music, and this is Impulse Manslaughter. He who laughs last laughs alone. So welcome to another episode where I highlight a particular item from my collection and just, talk about it basically. And today we're going to look at this one here, Impulse Manslaughter, He Who Laughs Last Laughs Alone. Check out this cover artwork. Doesn't get more metal and brutal than this, but you're in for a surprise actually. But awesome cover artwork. Just black and white, and then all the blood is red. Really highlights it. Really graphic as well. So that's great. We love that stuff. So this album was released in 1987 on Nuclear Blast Records. It's their, I think it's the third, because it's Nuclear Blast Records 003. So this is the third ever release on Nuclear Blast Records, which is pretty cool. Now, I picked this one up as part of a haul that I bought through Discogs from a seller in the Netherlands, I think, Vox Records. And to be honest, I really just wanted to pick up a copy of, because I'm one of those people that don't hate that album, a vinyl copy of Cold Lake by Celtic Frost. And I figured, I saw that Vox Records had this album, and I figured I'm just going to check out what else they have. And I saw they had this one here, and obviously I was intrigued by the cover artwork and the name, the band name, Impulse Manslaughter. This band is listed typically as, or not typically, because it's actually listed as a lot of different genres like thrash metal, grindcore, crust punk, hardcore punk, and I would say crust hardcore are more precise, more accurate descriptors than thrash metal and hardcore. Grindcore, because this is a punk album. There's not a lot of metal on this, and that's of course why, because you expect this would be like a typical metal cover artwork now, but it's a hardcore punk album. And hardcore punk album. And I'm not an expert in punk music. I like hardcore punk, but sort of the way I approach it is more through crossover thrash. So I like acts like, Agnostic Front, other bands that sort of cross over a bit into metal every now and then. There's a bit of that on this album, but not much. So this is, again, the outer sleeve. And here's the back. So that's like a band photo here. You have another version of their logo, just skulls. And as you can see, lot of tracks on this album, which should sort of give it away as probably more punky. But I think one reason why a lot of people might think that it's like thrash metal is that it's out on Nuclear Blast Records. However, we got to remember that Nuclear Blast originally was actually more like a punk label, right? The first issues or releases were more like punk hardcore releases, and then they sort of started doing grindcore, and then from that they went on into death metal and extreme metal and became more of a metal label. So this is the jacket. It came with an insert, which is very, do-it-yourself with the lyrics, right? And it looks like it's Xeroxed. And got some pictures of some band members, and you have the lineup here, and on the other side you have, you know, the thank you list, the lyrics for the songs on side B. Most of them, there are no lyrics for the last 2 songs. I don't know if they couldn't fit them in here, or what, if they're cover versions or whatever. And you also have, you know, some advertising for the first 2 releases on Nuclear Blast Records. Again, both of which are punk, more punk oriented releases. And you have, you know, some more information on them, and the mail address, right? Because back then there was no internet. And one thing that I like is, probably can't see it because it's a bit grainy, but I like the way they present the lineup, right? So you have Chris Hanley plays guitars and sings, right? So you have like almost like sentences there. Glenn Herman plays drums, wind chimes, and broken bottles. You have Carl Patton sings, Nick Stevens plays bass, and then my favorite here, Mike Morris Schaefer now plays guitar too. I really like that. Very informal. And there's also, I don't know if you can see it, there's like a skeleton here, right? So some pretty cool, kind of like do-it-yourself oriented graphics on the inner sleeve, and being a 1987 release, it just, you know, it's just on black vinyls, but with the let's see, the yellow, right, a yellow label, Nuclear Blast, early Nuclear Blast central label. Pretty cool, black vinyl. And the inner sleeve is just this like old school paper inner sleeve, and I don't really like these because I'm afraid they'll damage the vinyl. So I keep them because they're part of the release, but part of the package or whatever. So I keep them, but I don't keep my records in them. I'm too scared to do that. Okay. So, He Who Laughs Last Laughs Alone. A lot of tracks on this one. So it starts out with 2 songs. Well, one song called Batman and the Oracle of Penile Savage. And this is an instrumental. And it pretty much sets the tone for the album. Aggressive stuff. And there's a tiny, and this all kind of deviates a bit from the album because there's a tiny bit of grindcore-ish, grindcore reminiscent, kind of like a vibe, some elements there, something that's kind of like semi-blast beaty, but I like the title Batman and the Oracle of Penile Savage. Then you have these 2 songs, Vomithead and We're All Bored Here, and both of these are just fast, aggressive, angry, hardcore punk songs. And we're not talking like tough guy hardcore with, you know, really down-tuned guitars and grooves and things like that. No, it's fast-paced, frantic, aggressive, angry hardcore with angry, shouted vocals. Right? So it actually captures a bit of, I think, emotionality, which I kind of like. It's followed by a mid-paced, kind of melodic song called Suffer in Silence. It's kind of melodic. I mean, there's not a lot of melody on this album, but Suffer in Silence has a bit of melody. It's more mid-paced. It has a very chaotic ending, though, and I actually quite like this song. It's probably one of my favorite songs on the album. Then you have Walls It's the next song, which has a pretty cool sort of like a drum opening, and then it just sort of explodes into another fast, aggressive punk piece. And there's even like a simple little guitar solo there. Not many guitar solos in this album. That's not what they're about. They're about the raw, aggressive approach. But there's a little, solo here. Kind of refreshing, I guess. And the next one is They Start the War. And They Start the War is has kind of a humorous opening. So there's a bit of humor here, kind of fun, to maybe contrast with the gruesome sort of tone that the album has, and the aggressive tone it has. So a humorous opening, which has kind of like an old school, kind of like muck boogie rock feel to it, which is kind of fun. And then it just ends up being fast and angry again, because that's the style, right? You have a song with a great title after that, Premature Evacuation, and that's a more of a mid-tempo punk rock affair, pretty good. You have a song called Crimes, and it's a two vocalists, I think. They have like two vocalists sharing the duty here, and it has a pretty cool effect, I would say. And it has a nice metallic, I would say, this is probably the most sort of metal they get. It has a nice metallic, heavy opening, and then fast, aggressive punk music, as I said, with two vocals. Pretty cool song. Another favorite song of mine on the album. Another favorite is the next one, Too Late, which is a ballad. It's kind of a ballad. It's melancholic. It does increase in intensity, and it ends up getting, really fast anyway. So there's kind of like a nice build up there. Great song, Too Late. Very, very nihilistic, I would say, lyrics. And then it's followed by Pills, a fast, angry, chaotic song. And first I thought it was a cover song, because there's no vocals. Oh, sorry, there are vocals, but no lyrics in the lyric sheet. And it says, used by permission of Metal Blade Records. So I thought it was a cover version, but I think it's because it appears on a compilation, right? Owned, released, and probably owned by Metal Blade. So that's why they couldn't include, I think, the lyrics. So that's side one, a lot of tracks. So side two or side B starts out with a song called This World. And that's another fast, aggressive punk song. And this is where you got the broken bottles. I would say it should be breaking bottles. That would be a bit more precise. You have another fast, aggressive punker, Sedation. And then another, maybe not so super aggressive, but still energetic song called Cheer Up You Fucker. And it has a kind of melodic ending here, so they do inject some melody into the madness every now and then. You have a song called Oatmeal 2, and there's an Oatmeal 1 out there, a song about how disgusting oatmeal is, but it's easy to eat, I guess. And it's very sloppy, very primitive, very fast, and there's like a metal guitar solo, but it's kind of like mock metal. And I think this is the one. There's one of the solos, but I think it's this one where the vocalist even says, "Oh, shut up!" Right? So they kind of make fun of metal here, which we appreciate, I guess, as metalheads. Then you have a song called 1987 Schizoid Sam, so like a pun on the King Crimson classic. This is a mid-tempo, kind of heavy, also kind of melodic towards the end, punk song. So So pretty good too. And actually, I forgot, before Oatmeal, you have a song called Kein Spiel, which is one of my favorite songs, right? So on this album too, it has very violent lyrics. I mean, this is like a violent fantasy, right? So instead of going out and actually being violent to people, you can sing about it or listen to songs about it. And that way, you'll be happy afterwards. It's almost like cathartic, I think, in that sense. Kein Spiel, fast, aggressive, violent lyrics. And this is the closest we get to kind of like tough guy hardcore punk. There's a pretty cool heavy breakdown in this song as well. So Kein Spiel. Anyways, let's get back. 1987 Schizoid Sam. Pretty cool song there, mid-tempo. And then you have the penultimate song, which does not have lyrics in this. It's called Pattenstein's Disease. And this is more of a crusty D-beat affair. And there's actually a kind of like a doom metal-ish breakdown. And I think this is actually, this is the one where you have the muck metal guitar solo, where he says, "Shut up." I think this is the one. It's either this one or the Schizoid Sam one. I can't remember. This is one of the albums that I'm not that familiar with, right? So making this video kind of as an opportunity to give it another couple of spins. And the last song is called Piss Me Off. And it's got really sloppy drums, but that's part of the sort of overall sort of expressive feel, right? And this is another song that is almost grindcore-ish. It's reminiscent of grindcore. And interestingly enough, there's even like a black metal feel, like a proto black metal feel to this, like some tremolo picking. I mean, it doesn't sound like black metal does now, but there's just like a vibe that's reminiscent of black metal. So I mean, a lot of tracks here. Most of them are simple, aggressive, sloppy in a good sense, hardcore punk songs. Sloppiness, again in a good sense, characterizes this album. It's raw, it's angry, and I enjoyed it much more than I would expect to enjoy an album like this. So that's great, right? It's raw, it's angry, the vocals are shouted, they're angry, they almost sound desperate at times. Fits the music perfectly. There are lots of like bass openings and bass breakdowns, and that was pretty common to hardcore punk. And it's one of the things that I like, that some crossover bands kind of like introduced into metal as well. Although it, you know, you have Wrathchild and so on and so forth, you know, so it's always been in metal, but the sort of more punky style was sort of introduced through crossover, and it stems from, you know, hardcore punk along the lines of this. And a lot of bass breakdowns, as I said, good stuff here, and it's raw. I would say it's a raw listen. The production is not polished, but it's not like super lo-fi or unlistenable. It suits this aggressive, primitive, angry punk music very well. So that's Impulse Manslaughter. He who laughs last laughs alone. If you like hardcore punk, or if you just like aggressive, angry music, try to see if you can get your hands on this one. Like I said, I actually enjoy listening to this much more than I thought I would, right? And the cover artwork is great. Just as a last comment, or a last bit of information, the artist is called Rot Flesh. So there you go. Impulse Manslaughter. He who laughs last laughs alone. Hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. I enjoyed listening to this album. Great, dirty, hardcore punk. Thanks for watching.